Hey there, this is Stephanie Adams for Beginning Counselor Building Your Ideal Internship, and I'm here today with a new series for you in which we interview experts in the field about what they think you should know to have a successful internship. So today I'm here with Rob Reinhart, the CEO of Tame Your Practice, which helps mental health clinicians and all sorts of things about building your private practice. And he's going to talk to us today about what we need to know about technology to have a successful internship. So thanks for being here today.
Hey, thank you for having me, Stephanie. It's great to be here.
I'm really excited to have you. You're an expert in the field, and I'd love to hear what you think interns today should know about technology in order to have a good internship.
Sure. Well, first of all, I think there should be an entire course. You know, everybody's pushing, especially for counselors anyway. I know there's other mental health professionals that are pushing for 60 hours and so forth in graduate programs. I think they should squeeze in a course in there that covers technology and HIPAA. Actually, co-authored a paper last year with Dr. Tyler Wilkinson about how, hey, here's a model universities of how you can fit HIPAA into your graduate program and make sure that students coming out of there understand the implications of the use of technology. For many years, HIPAA was just about the whole privacy piece, and now we have the security piece, and it's very stringent as far as what you're supposed to be doing to secure your client data when you're using technology. And nobody's talking about that. Well, I shouldn't say nobody. Let's not use that strong of a word, but very few graduate programs are talking in depth about technology and how HIPAA plays into that. So I encourage people while they're still in their graduate program, and certainly once they come out into their internship, to take some continuing education courses, to do some reading, understand the HIPAA and privacy and security implications. So I don't want to make it sound scary, like HIPAA is this big ominous beast. I want everyone to get that education so that to remove that fear, because it's not, especially if you're in a small organization. It's manageable. But you need to know what you're doing, and know what the bare minimum things you need to be doing in order to comply with HIPAA.
Yeah, so it shouldn't be a source of fear, but it's definitely something we're responsible for and we need to be aware of. We have to teach ourselves, because graduate schools aren't going to do it for us, at least not now.
Right, and you're not only obligated by law to do that if you are a HIPAA-covered entity, which we have a short amount of time, so the brief version is if you're filing electronic insurance claims, you're a HIPAA-covered entity, but also our codes of ethics are starting to call for that. You know, the ACA updated their code of ethics a couple of years ago now, and added a whole section on technology. So more and more we're being called by our code of ethics as well as federal and state law to make sure we know what we're doing and securing that data. And that goes hand in hand with just business decisions you're going to make. If you go into private practice, I certainly come from a private practice bent. I know a lot of interns will spend a lot of time in agencies and other organizations in order to get their hours in, but it's still a factor there. And I talk to a lot of interns who go through those agency experiences, and they're very focused. Hey, I've got to get my direct hours in and my supervision. And they even come out of that experience without having anybody really, they've done their basic HIPAA training because they've got to work in a place like that. But nobody really gets into the in-depth, hey, if you ever had to do this on your own, how would you handle it kind of training? So even if you find yourself in that experience, ask more questions. If you're in a large enough agency that they have their own IT guy, talk to whoever the HIPAA expert is there and get a better understanding of why the policies and procedures are in place and so forth.
So is that where you'd recommend they start, by asking questions of other people they may be under supervision with or working with?
Yeah, then they're going to want to make sure they're talking to somebody who knows HIPAA and what there's people out there who just kind of check the boxes that they know they need to check, and there's other people who understand that HIPAA is a process. It's an ongoing thing where you're regularly assessing the risks to the data and managing those risks. So if you can get a hold of somebody like that, and then there's certainly people like myself Roy Huggins at Person Centered Tech. We do a lot of, we've got a lot of free articles on our blogs, in our newsletters, and continuing education courses so that you can learn some of this stuff on your own.
Yeah, because you do all sorts of stuff with helping people have secure forms, helping people choose EHR systems, secure emails, and that's something we really need to think about as professionals in private practice or not down the line.
Right, and that kind of leads me into that second point I wanted to make, because it's tied together with HIPAA. The whole reason you'll get into making considerations about HIPAA is because you're choosing to implement technology, whether that's sending emails back and forth with your clients or implementing an EHR practice management system because you want to do online scheduling and keep your notes and file claims. Whether you're just thinking about what are the implications of me making a cell phone call with my clients or receiving faxes over the internet. Each of those individual technology decisions have two components to it. One is the HIPAA side, which we've already talked about, and the other is the business side. That's the other big thing we don't get education on in our graduate program.
Not so much.
Nobody tells us what's it like to run a private practice. Where does the money come from? Where does the money go? What does it mean to invest in marketing and technology and so forth? So, the other thing I want to emphasize is people learning about things like return on investment, ROI, because people come out of graduate school and they just spent thousands of dollars on this education, and maybe they don't go right into private practice, but a lot of people eventually do. And they start to think about, oh my gosh, I don't have a lot of money to spend on this, so I'm going to hold off. I don't know that I want to spend $50 a month on this practice management system. It's really important you understand that you've got to do that calculation, that return on investment calculation. Well, what are you going to get out of that $50 a month? One thing I often tell people, most of these systems have automated appointment reminders. And if you have just one cancellation that doesn't happen, or a no-call, no-show that doesn't happen because that person got that appointment reminder, you've already paid for the system.
Yep.
Unless you're charging less than $50, and hopefully you're not, you've already paid for that system just by saving that one. And that's without getting into all the efficiency that you get of having the scheduling and insurance filing all in one place. So it's really important to not just say, look at this big dollar figure and say, oh my gosh, I don't know that I want to spend that money. But to sit down and look at, okay, if I spend this money, what's the result going to be?
Yeah. You could actually come out almost making a profit because you're avoiding the cancellations, efficiency. I feel like my practice management system is almost like having an employee doing a lot of the work for me.
Exactly, because there's intangible benefits too. Look at the time savings. If you get your notes done that much faster and you get your claims filed and you save that much time, if you save 3 hours a week because you're doing things more efficiently, those 3 hours could be turned into seeing more clients and making more money. It could be turned into having more me time and keeping yourself sane, or a mix of the both.
Yeah.
So you've got to look at those intangibles that you're getting from it as well.
Yeah, and I always say that you got these therapeutic benefits as well, from secure communication, from clients knowing exactly where they stand and not worrying about if they can't communicate with you about an appointment. They can double check the time themselves. They can self-schedule. But really, we could do the whole thing about the virtues of practice management systems.
Right, and that same calculation, that same analysis needs to take place with any technology that you're looking at implementing, from how you do your website to using secure encrypted email and putting secure contact forms on your website. Every time you do something, if that's the big takeaway from this short talk, is you want to look at the security and HIPAA implications of that implementation, and you want to look at the business implications of that implementation. And so you want to make sure you've covered your bases as far as privacy and security, and you want to make sure that you're getting a return on investment. Sometimes the return can simply be that convenience for your client. If your clients find online scheduling to be convenient, you may be getting more clients than you would otherwise.
Yeah, and it can really add up. All those little things come together. And I really recommend, if anybody's curious about this, a great place to start is your blog. You have all these comparisons of EHR systems, all the ins and outs.
Yeah, if someone's looking for an EHR system, my site's pretty much the place to go to see what are the ones that are out there and how do they compare and contrast. I even offer a service where I can help somebody based on their needs find the best fit for them, because different practices have different priorities. Some people don't want that client portal. They don't want clients to be able to schedule online. They want to screen everybody through a phone call. Some people don't deal with insurance and some people do. So I'm able to look at what people do need and say, well, I think this one is probably the best fit. But I've been doing the Tame Your Practice thing for 5 years now. So there's a pretty good selection of blog articles out there. They're all still up there from the last 5 years. Lots of stuff on HIPAA, so you can get a lot of information just from the blog, as well as a lot of other things.
Yes. It was hard to find which resources to focus on that you have. So I just recommend everybody visit your website and find out all the options. Because I remember a few years ago when I chose my practice management system, I started with your blog. And of course, I've had it for 3 or 4 years now. So,
right.
So it's that much resources. I encourage people to go there and just start asking themselves those questions about ROI, like you just talked about, and functionality for your needs. So,
and they can even put ROI in the search,
really?
Search that term in my blog, and there's at least 2 articles up there that talk about it in a little more in depth.
Yeah, great. Well, we have probably time for one more thought from you. You have anything else you want to say about what we need to know about technology in our internships?
Yeah, again, the big takeaway is, understand that there's security and business implications in the use of technology. You're busy as an intern getting those clinical hours in, but as much as you can, take some time to ask those business questions. Even if you're doing your hours in an agency, but someday you want to be in private practice, talk to the agency, ask your supervisor some business-related questions, because a lot of that can still translate into whatever environment you're going to be in. Make sure you're asking some of those questions in addition to the clinical questions.
That's a great tip. And you think about it, even agencies, nonprofits advertise in a way, even though they're not trying to make money, they're trying to talk about their services. So you can learn it wherever you are.
Oh yeah, and outside of technology, you can learn how to network and all kinds of other things while you're in that kind of environment.
Yeah. So it's a good place to start exploring and find out basically ask a lot of questions, because the field's changing, if I understand it right.
Yeah, you got to understand that you're part of a business. Whatever environment you're in, you're in part of a business, and so it's important that you understand how the business operates.
Well, thank you so much for all your help, and I appreciate you coming to talk to the interns today. And definitely, everyone, come visit tameyourpractice.com, and you'll find out tons of useful, reliable information. Rob knows his stuff. Check him out.
Thanks for having me, Stephanie.
Thank you.